Okay, well let me ask you this then. In what situations is an acoustic bass a good instrument?
Embarrassed, stunned silence.
Hey, A&P the bass player here. The video you're about to watch is a conversation I recently had with Dr. Denson Angulo about acoustic basses. He's an incredibly accomplished bass player with the credentials to back it up. I'll let him tell you what those are.
I am the jazz bass professor at the University of Utah. My doctorate is in bass performance, both classical and jazz, on the upright and on the electric. And I've been playing for about 30 years. Yeah, and I've been playing upright since I was 16. God, a long freaking time. I'm getting old.
No.
Yeah.
Even though he has this incredible background and the education, he and I share something in common. Neither of us really care for acoustic bass. Far and away, the most popular video I've ever made and the most controversial was this one from 2015 where I talked about the shortcomings of acoustic basses. Over the years, I've gotten a lot of people disagreeing with me and comments about my playing and even outright personal attacks. So I thought this would be a good opportunity to revisit the topic, but with a more educated perspective. We're also going to be able to do something in this video that I couldn't back in the old one, and that is to compare acoustic bass to the OG acoustic bass. I'm talking upright, which is an instrument that Denson plays incredibly well. Woo! Yeah. So like the big part of like having an upright bass though is that having this big piece of wood is what projects all the sound.
Yes.
This is what makes it loud.
Exactly. So I have this chamber of air, this big body, you know, and I've got, I don't know, roughly, you know, 9 or 12 cubic feet of space in there. I've never done the math. But it's also how it's built and how it's set up. So you can't see it, but underneath this foot of the bridge, there's a piece of wood that runs along the inside of the top. That's called the bass bar. And the bass bar takes this vibrational info and makes the top resonate. And then underneath this, which you can probably see in there, that's called the sound post. And the sound post takes this side of the bridge and vibrates the back of the instrument.
I mean, I can see it, but I don't know if the camera can pick it up.
Yeah.
But yeah, can confirm that it's there.
Yeah, sound post. Anyway, so yeah, the sound post, so that resonates in the back, and then the bass bar resonates the top. So when I play a note, like, put your hand there, you can just feel that going like crazy.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's just... And then, even more so, if I have the peg into the stage or into the ground, I can make the whole stage vibrate. It's wild.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, so stand like right about here with your bare feet. You feel that?
I can. Okay, yeah. On that lower note, definitely.
And it depends on what this is. It's probably
Yeah,
concrete.
It
Yeah, but if
doesn't
this were a
resonate
wooden
very
stage,
a hollow wooden stage like is everywhere.
like at a concert, yeah, totally resonates.
Yeah. So that's why you were able to get away without having an amplifier for these in the early days.
Exactly.
So you can keep up with a jazz drum kit no problem.
Sure, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the electric bass, so the reason the electric bass came into play was there weren't a lot of guys that were doing these, but now rock bands were coming into play. Rock bands, blues bands, country bands, and they didn't have a bass player. They didn't have an acoustic bass player. So Leo Finner's like, what are we going to do? He invented the bass guitar for guitar players to play bass in their bands, right? So that's why he took these notes, turned them sideways. You can even see on earlier instruments where there's a place for the fingers to go so that the bass player could play with their thumb.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, the tug bar.
Finger rest, the tug bar, exactly. That was for guitar players. Well, it was Lionel Hampton, the jazz vibraphone player, that was like, hey man, we're on tour, let's try one of these electric basses and see how it works. And so they started playing electric bass in jazz band. And that didn't really happen until the late 50s, early 60s, where the jazz bass came into play. And then bass players were like playing with their fingers because they were transfers over to electric from upright. Mm-hmm. So bass guitars were originally played with picks by guitar players.
Well, let's just settle that argument right now.
That's right. I am a doctor.
I am a doctor.
Trust me, I'm a doctor, right? Not that kind of doctor. Anyway, so, yeah, but it was the acoustic bass players who were like, well, I'm not hauling that big-ass thing around on a bus for weeks on end. I'll do one of these and play it like this, and that's...
Yeah, and it's not even so much the weight, it's just so big.
Yeah. So, you know, getting it into a bus is a pain.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you used to, when they would let you fly with these...
You have to buy a seat for it.
And you would put it in the seat, like upside down with a seatbelt around it.
Have you ever had to fly with this?
Not this one. No. Whenever I go on tour, like out of the States, where beyond driving range, I usually rent an instrument at my destination. So I did a tour to the UK. I rented a bass. I went to Australia and rented a bass there. Yeah, I wasn't taking this.
Oh, yeah.
And it's already... I need to fix some of the cracks and repair... I need to repair it a little bit. But
that's character there, man.
Yeah, I need to fix it. But I've had this particular instrument since I was 16.
16?
Yeah, I got it in high
Dang.
school. Yeah. It's a 1938 K bass.
No way.
It's a K. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And I've used this in orchestral sessions. Yeah, I played my solo recital on this thing. Like, it's a great instrument. Yeah, it's really great.
It looks so rad. I love
a lot of character.
I love the color of the
This
wood.
was a hood ornament.
Oh.
I had a Dodge. On my YouTube, you can find some videos of it. But this was the hood ornament of that car, so I took it off and stuck it there.
That's so funny.
Yeah, it's funny. But it's a good bass. And this particular bass is actually pretty loud. I can do gigs acoustically with it, with a drummer.
Yeah, yeah. No, a drummer with rods or full on sticks.
No, sticks. Like jazz.
Okay.
Yep.
If we go over to our regular acoustic bass here, how does this compare? And then I got a lot of people saying like, "Oh, your bass isn't loud because it's cheap." Tell me about this one.
Okay.
Because this should compete, right?
Yeah,
this is like a good one.
This is a Tacoma, and as maybe a lot of your viewers would know, the Tacomas are actually some of the better acoustic instruments, right? Like they profess that they've got a big body. You know, they've got a big mahogany, nice and thick. They've got all the little, you know, acoustic bars in there and whatnot. So these are constructed really nicely. I mean, they're nice acoustic basses. And, you know, there was a time where I thought, I think I want to have an acoustic bass just to have, you know, around the campfire or whatevs.
Yeah.
And, you know, so these Tacomas are really nice. This is a Thunder Chief. It's got a pickup on it, you know, all the whatevs, all the goodies. But the thing about these, let's go over here for a second. This is nothing more than the laws of physics, folks. Like, you just can't compete. The only benefit of having an acoustic bass is its size. But if you're going to have an acoustic bass and you're going to plug it in, you might as well just play an electric.
Yeah, but then it won't sound the same. It's the tone.
That's true, I suspect. However, I had a bass that had piezos or piezo, depending on your country of origin and your vowel sounds. But the piezo pickups on an electric bass can simulate the sound of an acoustic piezo.
Really?
Yeah, because they're just a very similar thing. The
so
only
the
real difference...
the string type doesn't play into it too
well,
much?
I was just going to say that. I mean, I'm using these copper strings.
Take that is like a quarter the volume.
And I'm actually plucking pretty hard.
That was something that people criticized me a lot in my other video. I tend to have a pretty light attack. I was always of the mindset, like, make your amp do the work. And
Yeah,
so
sure.
that was...
Same.
So, like, I had a lot of people like, if you didn't just, like, if you pluck it like a pussy, you won't get any sound out of it. But, like, look at your attack here, like, you're going at it, man.
Yeah, I'm digging in pretty good. Or whatever. Let's do a walking bass line. So now let me do the exact same walking bass line. Well, same key anyway, on this. And to be fair, I'm gonna actually play a little lighter on this because I won't do a full-on acoustic playing with a drummer mode.
Yeah.
But just playing a little lighter, but just doing that B flat. Like this is filling up your room.
Yeah, it's easily twice as loud. It'll be interesting to see the waveforms.
Yeah, totally. Now a little louder if I had drums with me. Like this. I'm guessing that that's about as loud as you can go with your amp here in your apartment complex without getting a couple of smashes on the ceiling.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
yeah.
that's filling up the room. I mean, it's just laws of physics, guys.
Yeah.
It's laws of physics. So, you know, for your viewers that like acoustic transverse bass guitars, is what I call them. Because when I say acoustic bass, I'm thinking this, you know. And when I say transverse, this is vertical, this is transverse.
Oh.
And I only use that term because I'm a nerd doctor, what else? But it's sort of like the difference between a recorder and a transverse flute.
Oh, yeah.
So it's sideways.
Let me ask you this then. In what situations is an acoustic bass a good instrument?
Embarrassed, stunned silence. Do you have a pick?
Oh, sure.
Let me grab a pick. Okay, so if I were playing a singer-songwriter gig and we were on tour and it's me and this singer-songwriter, you know, whoever. It's just me and that person and we're touring in a car. And that person's driving, and they've hired me to be their bass player, and they drive a Prius, or a Ford Focus, and they were willing to buy me an acoustic to be their bass player. I would play it, and I would use a pick, because I can get a little more sound with a pick. Like there's a little more attack there. And I could play a little bit over the bridge to mellow out the tone, but I still get some more volume. You know, and that's just a very specific sound. And it really reminds me of, there's a jazz bass player that plays transverse acoustic bass, amplified with a pick. His name's Steve Swallow, and he's a great bass player. Super awesome. Check him out if you don't know Steve Swallow. Check him out. That's sort of one of his things. And that sounds pretty good. But he uses an amp, right? He's also in his 80s, I think. So I wouldn't want to carry this around in my 80s, whatever. But he's played, you know, transverse acoustic for decades. And it's just his sound, right?
There's definitely something to be said about just like, if you want the acoustic bass sound, like nothing else will quite sound exactly like that.
Right, but you still amplify it.
Yeah. And I don't know how it is for you, but I find electric bass to be worlds more comfortable to play.
Sure, like this wide thing has already started kind of hurting my arm.
Yeah, it cuts off the blood through your forearm.
Yeah, and even if I played it sort of like this.
The classical style.
Yeah. Like it's on my wrist and... and it sounds pretty good, but when it comes to like spending, you know, a couple grand on one of these, and you're just gonna plug it in, you know, it's all really about what you're trying to accomplish with your music. You know, I don't own one. I don't need one. I will probably never own one. I did think about it though for a while. And you know, like if you're gonna get a transverse acoustic, you've really got to shell out a lot of bread to get a nice one that's gonna be loud. I've seen some really great ones that, you know, I've got a friend on Facebook who's in France, and he owns a 6-string acoustic bass, and it's fretless, it sounds incredible, you know, but it's like a $10,000 bass guitar.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, woo! You know, you might as well buy an upright.
You could get a couple of really great basses for that.
You could, you know. So, I mean, when it comes to, like, the physics of the instrument, the sound of the instrument, you know, it's a very specific thing. And, you know, I don't necessarily hate on them per se, but I just don't find them practical to own when I can do so much more with this. I can play in almost any kind of band with this, okay? I can gent, you know, Mr. Kringle, the Primus stuff, like all that stuff. You know, you've got metal, you've got jazz, I've got bluegrass, I've got folk, I've got, you know, pop music. You can play pop music on this, sure, why not?
Absolutely. And do you have a piezo pickup in this to amplify it?
It's right here. So when I play with bigger groups and bigger spaces, I do amplify it.
Yeah.
You know, I totally do. But also I can play with the bow, I can play in an orchestra, I can do all that kind of stuff. So if this is your thing, like Steve Swallow's thing, this is all he does. And it's awesome. Like, it's awesome. I love his playing. I love his sound. It's, you know, it's very inspirational. He plays with a pick. He sounds great. But that's his thing. Like, this is his thing, right? So if it's not going to be a thing, then I don't really find the practicality worth the investment. I really don't.
Yeah, I think the thing you really nailed there is that it's a niche instrument.
It totally is.
I think people like, because an acoustic guitar is a very universal sort of a thing. Like,
sure.
So many people have acoustic guitars.
Yep.
They're really, really great. They project plenty of sound for what they do.
Yep.
But an acoustic bass is not, it's not like a corollary instrument at all.
Right. Let's take that line I was sort of improvising on. Sort of funky thing.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, let's grab the acoustic.
Yeah. God, that low end.
Like, it's just so much boomier and bigger, and you know, you would have to amplify this to get to this level of sound.
Yeah.
Just that. So then I amplify this, and it's like, okay, I can play in a big band, or I can play with 20 other people in a big ensemble. Yeah, it's just upright's where it's at, folks. But here's the thing, like I said, that's a niche, so's this. Like, this is a commitment. You know, I will never, ever drive anything less than a station wagon or crossover SUV, Subaru, Kia Soul, whatever, the rest of my life. I've got to fit this in the car.
That's funny. It's like a lifestyle commitment to play upright.
Yeah, it really is. And it's a different instrument when it comes to, like, technical things with electric, you know. Like, that's a whole step, you know. That's the first fret and basically the third fret. I'm moving these out of the way so you can see the space, but, you know, that's huge.
That's a huge stretch.
That's like 4 frets on your pink bass. You know?
Yeah. Like, if you were to just, like, compare this, like...
Yeah, so hold that right there. Longer. I got this. Got my hand. Like, yeah, that's like 4 frets.
Yeah, that's like...
A minor third.
It's crazy.
It's a definite, you know, commitment to the technique. Playing in tune is a huge thing. You know, so I can be here and be, like, 2 millimeters up and it's sharp. You know, so it's like the accuracy... Have to concentrate on getting that perfect fifth in tune, the octaves. I've spent a lot of hours playing blindfolded or in the dark.
Oh, really?
I joke. I'm not joking. Totally Totally did it.
Because you don't have any indication on the side.
No,
either.
I don't. I mean, I've got there's like some old scratches and stuff from when I was a kid, but, I don't look at those, especially if I'm reading music. I can't be doing this.
Well, but why not, though?
Yeah, I gotta read the music. Yeah, so... You want me to grab the bow? You want to hear it with the bow?
Oh, yeah.
This bow is worth more than 3 of those.
Oh, Jesus.
I know, it's stupid. Go. It's wild.
Oh, that is cool.
Yeah, it's killing. So that's even louder. Listen to that little funky line. Just so much louder too.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things you get with a bow is just a lot more high frequency range. So stuff will cut differently, but you can't use a bow for everything, right?
Right, yeah.
But, that's what it's made for. It's made to be loud. It's made to boom. The double bass was designed to double the cello section an octave lower. And what's crazy is I'm in a chamber group here in Salt Lake City called Symphonia Salt Lake. SymphoniaSaltLake.com. And there's only one bass, me. That's it. We have three cello players, 3 violas, 4 second violins, and 4 first violins, and me. And if I don't play, it's a very thin texture. It thins out. But as soon as I add in, it's like, there's that boom that's just there. You feel it. And that's what we want, bass players. We want to feel the bass.
Mm-hmm.
That's our job. Whether it's orchestral music or rock music or jazz, you want to feel us. We're the people that get butts to move, get those shaking dancers up.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, totally. It's an unfair comparison, honestly. They're just so different. But you can hear the benefits of a double bass versus the transverse acoustic. Yeah. And like I said, I'm not hating on your viewers that like transverse acoustics.
No, and there are a couple of situations where an acoustic bass totally makes sense.
Right.
Like if you want to just have something easy to pick up and play at home, there's nothing easier than just literally
just grabbing
picking it up. You don't have to plug it in, and you can just play solo super, super easy. That's fine for that. I feel like the campfire thing doesn't really work. In my experience, you might as well just play whatever. It doesn't even matter because no one can hear it.
Yeah.
You might as well just figure out how to play acoustic guitar because you'll have more fun with it.
Sure. And like I said, if you really want to do this, if this, like you said, lifestyle commitment is not for you, but you do want to have a nice instrument that you can play acoustically, you've got to spend $3,000 to $5,000 on a nice acoustic bass that are really built well, high level of craftsmanship to get a good sound.
What does this one retail for?
I'd have to look it up. In fact, here's one for $719, $799, $1,000. Made in the 2000s. And like I said, I thought about getting a Thunder Chief, and I'm really grateful for Max to letting us borrow this, especially because we're kind of ragging on it.
Yeah.
But like I said, I don't want to tell your viewers that, these suck and you shouldn't own one. But what I'm saying is, and this just correlates with what you were saying in your other stuff, unless you get a really nice one, it's not worth the money. I bought a cheap one years ago. It was a fretless one, which, I would play a fretless one over a fretted one because then you don't have the weird buzz problems and all that stuff that you can end up having. Mm-hmm. But it was just so soft and horribly set up. I sent it back. I couldn't keep it. I was like, I'll just practice this one more.
Yeah, and that was actually something I did bring up in my other video, is just how limited you are on with these bridges here. Like, there's not a whole lot you can do with this in terms of setup to get the action just perfect. Like, you don't have the same options as an electric bass bridge.
Right. If you don't want to make the jump to upright bass and you're doing singer-songwriter gigs or playing around the campfire, it's perfect.
Well, not perfect so much as good as it's gonna get.
Yeah. I'm being overly optimistic here for your viewers.
Yeah, the whole campfire dream for me just like has not ever panned out.
I played with a bunch of friends around the campfire. I took this.
Yeah?
It's what you do, And it's loud AF at the campfire.
Oh,
everybody loved it. We got banjo, mandolin, guitars, and I'm plenty loud.
Oh, and banjos are incredibly loud.
Oh, yeah. They're super loud.
Yeah.
It's a snare drum with strings on it. How could it not be loud?
Do you have any recommendations for, say if like you were going to be a busker and you needed some kind of a solution for an amp, but you don't have power?
Oh, yes.
Because people recommend those Roland cubes quite a bit.
Yeah,
I've seen
the Roland cube. I've never used that kind of stuff, like the battery-powered amps, but I've seen, I think Bose has something too.
Okay.
That's battery-powered for busking. If I were busking, I would play this, and I wouldn't need an amp.
Well, and this would look way cooler out there anyway.
Sure. And, I'd probably make more tips just from having it there. Well, that's cool. Ka-ching.
Yeah, exactly.
Totally. But, yeah. But I mean, you could busk with one of these probably, but you wouldn't. You'd have to be probably indoors on a subway. I don't know, man.
Subways are loud.
They're loud. They are loud. I mean, it's fun to play until my arm starts to hurt.
Yeah.
You see me going back and forth. It's like, that kind of hurts.
Playing all for like 30 seconds and it.
Tone just tanks. Another thing that you get when you're playing with your fingers, especially if you're doing what the Mel Bay Bass Method Volume 1 calls hammer stroke, is just when you're like hitting the strings like that, you can really hear the thump, like that sound, that's coming through, but the tone of the string is not very strong. So like you hear the tone and the attack. Right, and as soon as I use my fingers, you hear that, and the actual pitch is diminished. And it's almost like I feel like I need to pluck harder. I feel like I'm plucking this harder than I'm plucking that. Like physically. Maybe because my fingers are sore. I played a gig last night. It's my first gig of 2021. But my first gig in like months, so my fingers are a little sore. Another thing too is I can't really do a lot of left-hand articulation. So by that I mean like sort of tap type stuff. Having to,
yeah, you gotta flick that thing really hard to get it through.
And with the upright, I don't know that I need to do. Yeah, it's just louder.
It's just such a wider, more full sound.
Full spectrum, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's cool. And, like you've said before, you can get that if you have a nice amp and you plug it in, but you might as well play an electric bass.
Yeah, it's just more comfortable, and in my opinion, it sounds better. But
yeah.
If you want to be the Violent Femmes, then cool.
Sure.
But, and I actually looked up that guy, what was his name, Brian something or other.
Oh.
His acoustic bass is huge.
Oh, sure.
It is seriously like 6 or 8 inches like wide. It is an enormous acoustic bass.
This is 8.
And he's still.
This is 8.
I swear it's about that thick. Like,
yeah.
And he still has to amplify the thing, like when they gig, like it's just how music works.
Well, you know, you think about how much air, that much, you know, what the cubic feet of footage is of you know, half the size of this. Like you look at the body size, like it's like not even quite half the size. Mm-hmm. And of course, it's laws of physics. It's going to be half as loud.
Well, yeah, and it's the same thing like with the bass speakers. They just have to be thicker and heavier and bigger and more ampage to
move the air.
Yeah.
We are moving air. That is what we're doing. Yeah.
Well, and bass frequencies are like so wide.
Yeah, and omnipresent too. So when I play this note, it just doesn't shoot out like a guitar's, you know, a 210 Marshall is going to pierce your brain, whereas this goes everywhere automatically. Mm-hmm. It's resonating in the walls. You know, you could set up a transducer in your cupboard between some plates, and I could play this low E, and your plates would pick it up. Like, it's just omnipresent.
Yeah, less directional than guitar.
Yeah, it's just everywhere. It goes everywhere. Especially this instrument, the back is resonating, the front is resonating, the fingerboard resonates. It's just more wood. Like, that A just sounds so good in here.
It's really great. You can't see me right now, but I've just had a stupid grin on my face the whole time he's been playing. So yeah, if you're gonna play acoustic bass, get one of these. If this isn't feasible, then I guess you can get one of these.
You can find them used.
They're okay to derp around on, but I just can't take it as like a serious instrument most of the time.
Yeah, me too. Sorry, folks.
I think we covered just about everything that I wanted to talk. Oh no, there was one more thing.
Okay.
Traditional Mexican music. I had a lot of people from Mexico and South America that were ragging on, no, acoustic bass is used in traditional Mexican music. How dare you? Like,
here we go.
That is a different instrument than that.
Here we go. We rolling?
Yeah, go.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I am half Mexican. My father is from Mexico, from the West Coast. And so for traditional mariachi music, they're using a completely different instrument than this. The instrument they're using, and you can look it up, is called a guitarrón. The guitarrón is a 6-string, fretless acoustic bass, and basically it's like maybe 3/4 the size of this, and they play it transversely. So you watch videos of those dudes, they do not see their right hand because that bass is so much bigger. And another thing they do is they'll pull the strings.
Yeah, they're grabbing those and flicking them super hard.
You know, and it's a smaller instrument. It's tuned like a guitar, but the low string is this A. So the body, like the bass player you were talking about before.
Yeah, the Violent Femmes guy.
Yeah, Violent Femmes. It's a guitarrón is about this size, and then there's like a huge, like the body is like here, and then it goes boom, real deep, real steep to the neck. And the neck is actually shorter.
Yeah.
You know, it's not the same length as the Tacoma, that's a 34-inch scale. And I think a guitarrón is like 30 inches or 32 inches.
I was going to say, the ones that I've seen, they look more like guitar length.
Yeah, and their bodies are cut so that they kind of sit on the player's body at kind of an angle like this, too. It's kind of funny to play this way.
It looks ridiculous.
It's weird to play like this, but that's basically what the traditional mariachi music, the guitarrón.
Addressed.
Check mark. The guitarrón. And it's a very different instrument, but it's also kind of like one of these things. It's like a lifestyle commitment. If you're a guitarrón player, it's like got strings and 6-string, and you pull the string, really hard. You wouldn't play that like that. It would sound like shit. Oh, you have to bleep that.